She's really happy there. I know, I don't want my head in there.
Jackie Eller, where are you?
Here's Jackie.
You're on.
You're on.
Welcome to our first in a long time, ladies' luncheon here at Church of the Nativity.
Yay.
I am so glad that we're all here today. Let me first tell you how I got the job of standing up here. I went to a meeting and I forgot to look down. That's all it took. Immediately after the lot fell upon me to plan the event, Jackie spoke up and gave me a wonderful suggestion of inviting our lady authors in our parish to present a panel discussion. Praise God. The more I thought of her suggestion, the better I liked it. I wanted to hear more from our resident authors myself, and how else can I get them all together and listen to them? I didn't know another place that I've been where I've had the pleasure of being in the company of such great authors, and so many of them. I've already bought some of their books, and I hope to buy more today. If you haven't had the opportunity to read any of them, I highly recommend them to you. But first, let's give God praise. Please bow our heads and pray with me. Dear Lord, we come to you today in thanksgiving. We thank you for the time to spend together and to break bread together today. We thank you for the creative spirit that you have given to these ladies, that they could write and publish their works and share them with us to lift us all up to praise your name. Lord God, we thank you for the food that we will eventually share and enjoy, and we ask that you bless the hands that prepared it, delivered it, and served it. Keep us all ever mindful of the needs of others. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Well, we're going to begin with our program, but first, the little goodie baskets in front of you should give you, I thought, if you're looking at authors, you need bookmarks. You also might want to take notes, so there's pen and paper in there. And a special little treat that Sarah and I made for you, mostly Sarah. She did all the good stuff, I only take credit for the mistakes. So, we're going to introduce our authors. The first author that I'm going to take the microphone to is Jackie Eller. Jackie grew up in the small village of Catworth, Cambridgeshire, England. Encouraged by her mother at a young age, she began writing funny poems and articles for the local papers. After living and working in several countries, she retired with her husband Dave to Sarasota. She became an American citizen in 1980. Most of her work is based on real events that happen all around us, noted by observations and personal interludes in her life. She illustrates all her own books, mostly in cartoon style. Her book subjects are based on a lighthearted selection of experiences and observations, mixed with humor and a tad of pathos that she hopes will be as entertaining to the reader as it was for her to live, observe, and present them. Jackie's books include Utter Rubbish, a collection of amusing art and verse, Never Kick a Beehive, a collection of art and verse, and the delightful children's book, Sneezy Louisie. She's working on her 4th book and having fun doing it. As she says, there is no end to the interesting material out there to observe and write about. So watch out, you might be in her next book. So, without any further ado,
I get to sit here. I was going to come over there.
okay, good.
It might be easier for you.
And for you.
Yeah, that's great. I did have notes, but I can't remember what I did.
Right here.
Oh, good.
That reminds me of a story.
Poets are so haphazard when they do anything, you know.
When Father Mike was a new rector at St. Mark's, Marco Island, our youngest son was 8 years old. And so he was getting antsy one Sunday morning, and he insisted he go to church with his father for the 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, I was still trying to get the older kids rounded and ready to go. Mike relates the story that when they got to church, he did his normal thing. He climbed up into the pulpit and put his notes for his sermon up in the pulpit. And then he went down and got busy doing other things. Mikey watched his father. When his father left the room, he climbed up in the pulpit, took the notes, and went to the first pew in front of the pulpit and put the notes under his bum and sat there, waiting for his father to get up to preach. Father Mike got up to the pulpit, stepped in, and he can't find him, and all of a sudden Mikey holds him up. So he then pulled him down. Mike went on with the sermon, preached it from his memory. They got done the service, and Mikey said, "Father, it was this date, not that one." It was this citation, not that one. That was it. Mike never depended on his notes again.
Okay, thank you. I am so happy to see so many ladies here today. It's just great having us all together. And I hope I can give you some information on how to self-publish. I'll just explain my experiences and what I've done. And then our panel here has some very interesting areas to cover as well. So I'll make mine as brief as possible so we can all fit in. So I can't remember when I didn't write. I've always written, and when you grow up in an area where there's very little electricity and dark nights, no TV, no cell phones, you learn to find something to do, and if you don't, your mother will find something for you. You definitely find something to do, and my choice was to write. My mother encouraged me, and it wasn't until we did a lot of moving around I got more interested in writing kid stories, small stories, lots of poems, which I like to share with lots of people here actually. Occasionally I drop one off to someone and they get a little private poem. I decided to self-publish after going through my stuff when we moved here and finding out I had loads of boxes of stuff that when I die, no one's going to care and they'll throw them out. So I thought I'll put them together in a book. Well, I had so much material, and I started to do that. And then when I came to Nativity, a friend of mine, Laura Stucky, she used to go to the Windsor Assisted Living. I used to visit her, and I would write poems for her, for Poetry Hour. And she'd read them to the other residents, and the spicier the poems, the happier they were. And so it got to be quite a routine. I also got a happy hour there, that was great. And when she passed away, I kept going for a little bit, but it wasn't quite the same. And she encouraged me to get this book done. I did get the book done, and I explained why I chose the publisher I did. When I write poems, it's a little difficult for me because don't usually come out right the first time. It's like putting on your bra in the morning and you've got to shift it around and move it around, you know, until you get it just right. And so once I get the poem just right, then I'm good, and I type it up and then I illustrate it. And sometimes it comes out perfect, exactly how I want it the first time, no shifting around. And my husband will tell you that sometimes I write in the dark because I don't want to wake him up, but you end up waking him up. And so I write in the dark when I come up with an idea, because if you don't write it down, you will forget it. You think you won't, but you will. So I learned to write in the dark, the odd notes, so that's cool. The reason I chose this publisher for self-publishing is after a few rejection notes from traditional publishing, you go to the next step. And I had already heard about Pepper Tree Press downtown, and they are just wonderful, wonderful ladies. One of them is a very popular published author, Julianne, and they cover all the genres you can imagine. So any genre you like, they will discuss it with you. They go over all the details. They will provide you illustrators if you need one. I didn't. And I have brochures from the Pepper Tree Press on the table over there. Please help yourselves to those. And also some free bookmarks for my books. And they provide the illustrators for you if you don't find your own. They do all the editing if you want them to. I do my own editing because my poems are very difficult to edit unless you're me. So, you know, I illustrate my own work because I choose to. Actually, it's more like ego, and it's also expense, you know. Pepper Tree Press, they usually, from day one to actually print your book, takes between 8 to 10 weeks, which is good. They cover everything with you. You've got a couple of months to change anything you want. You can go over it continuously. They send you the copies on the internet. You can peruse them and find out if they've got it right or you want to change it. And up to the last minute, you can change it. If you wait past that point, then it costs you extra money. You know, I change a lot of things. I read it, and obviously I don't like how it looks, so I change it again. And when they edit, they will go over it for you and make any suggestions you like, but I usually just do my own editing. And they also provide a really good selection of graphic artists. So they will put your book together, how it's supposed to look, so it can be attractive. They take little smidgets of one picture of your cartoon and move it to this page and put it right near your index and make it more attractive. And you can see that if you pick up one of my books and go through it, that different things from inside the book are actually on the front pages, where the title is and where my, you know, information on me is. And they're very good at providing just the person you want, and they work with you very well. And if you really want to go the extra mile, you can have them make bookmarks. You can design your own bookmarks, or you can get them done yourself. I use Staples a lot and other places downtown. And I'm really happy with Pepper Tree Press. They'll discuss anything. Just make an appointment. Go down there and ask them what you need to do. And if you really don't like to write or need anything put into print, then I suggest you do what a lot of people growing up, when I grew up, this little book here was from my mother's best friend. And she wrote this little tiny book and had it self-published about our growing up in little Catworth where I lived. And it's tiny. It doesn't mean you have to publish a huge, enormous book. You can get hardbacks, paperbacks, this size, more pages, less pages, matte, gloss, different colored pages, different kind of writing, printing, anything you like. And Also, anyone here remember the Rhubarb Gourmet?
Sorry.
Carla, who used to be our music director, I believe this was her mother that wrote this. She got tired of telling people the recipes, they kept asking, so she wrote this, and I bought one. And it's got some cool recipes for rhubarb, if you're that way inclined. This one in here is a self-published book by my youngest brother. He did that for his, couple of Christmases ago for his daughter. He was about 20 years late, but she had insisted that he write this kid's story that he used to tell her at Christmas when she was tucked in bed waiting for Santa. It's really a sweet little book, perfect for Christmas. And I got one because I felt like I should support my brother, so I bought one. And I'll show you a few things that give you suggestions if you don't want to do self-publishing and you want to do it on your own. I need a bigger lip on this podium. Right, where is it? I have my daughter's mother-in-law, she's an assisted living, but she's a very talented watercolor artist, and she still does them. And I always get thank you cards to my grandkids by using one of her cards. She self-publishes these, a local printer, and she just gives them out. And this is just a sample of her work, it's beautiful. And this is another one of her cards with a thank you, Nana, for your Christmas money on it. Yeah, this one here. And the cards I make, I take pictures from my book, and I take them to Staples. They take a photo of it. Before you know it, you have a perfectly good card. And if you're interested, and I used to do a lot of black and white prints too, so you can get those done there. And that's another idea on self-publishing. And also calendars. If you're a great photographer, or you have a wonderful hobby and you want to take photos of it, you can get online, create your own calendar, and they will do everything for you. I think it's like about $10 a calendar. They make great Christmas gifts. And last time I was down at Pepper Tree Press, they had just finished printing 250 cookbooks for a family reunion with all the family's recipes in it. And so there's all kinds of ideas that they come up with and suggestions, and like I said, they cover all genres. And so I'll check my notes again in case I forgot something. Yeah, I did all that. I did all that. Well, in closing, actually I have one more thing. My first introduction to actually getting something in print in a book was when I drew the cover for the 6th Army Training Manual where I used to work. And it's the most excruciatingly boring book in the world. But the cover looks great, you know. So, and actually in closing again, just remember, every day you delay is a day you don't get it done. So don't let a good idea or a good thought go to waste. And if you have any questions, I'm sure you can save them till the end. One more thing, I never travel without this. I write anything in it, because if I don't, I'll forget. So always take one of these with you.
Next, we have Joe Davidsmeyer. Joe, unfortunately, I didn't get your email until late, so I'm using what I got off the internet.
Okay, it could be old, but that's all right, so am I.
Joe is an award-winning playwright as well as an accomplished former musical director and a certified teacher and media specialist. In a professional, non-writing career spanning nearly...
Non-fiction career.
Whoops, non-fiction career spanning nearly 25 years, she's been editor for several publications and was creator and managing editor of Strange New Worlds, a science fiction collector's magazine. Jo has penned a series of books on World War II called Combat, and she co-authored Reader's Theater, what it is and how to stage it, and 4 award-winning scripts. So, Jo, do you want to come up here?
Sure, I'll come on up there. Come around. Whee! She'll be coming around the table when she comes. Everybody, she'll be coming around the table when she comes. Coming around the table. Okay, there was not the sing along there apparently. Hi there, I am Jo Davidsmeyer. Thank you, Bonnie, for that wonderful introduction, and Jackie for coming up with this great idea. It's a pleasure to be talking to you today. I am primarily from the nonfiction end of the writing world. All through college, I worked various publication companies, doing setup, layout, back in the days when cut and paste actually meant cutting and pasting. That was fun. And through that, and through a dear friend that I went to college with, who wound up eventually working for Harcourt Brace Jovanovich, I got to do a lot of freelance editing as well. So I got to learn both the production end of the business and the editing end of the business. Meanwhile, I have had a lifelong interest in science fiction. I go to a lot of science fiction conventions. I'm a geek, I admit it. It got to be very expensive because they're all over the country, all over the world. So I was trying to figure out a way that I could make my trips to science fiction conventions tax deductible. So I decided to print my own science fiction magazine. Doesn't everybody? Yes. So I came out with Strange New Worlds, a science fiction collector's magazine. This was the premiere issue, which I cut and pasted and had to do 8 sheets at a time, so it was a giant board. So I didn't want to mimeograph it. I even did that awful rendition of the Starship Enterprise on the cover. Anyway, I had fun with that, and I decided, heck, people were interested. Why don't I get a little fancier as we went along? Ooh. We even went to the point where I got a color cover. Ooh. And I started to get some distribution in newsstands. Shocked the heck out of me. And I would start getting submissions from writers all over the country to put wonderful articles in my magazine. And I would read some of these, they'd send their resume and go, wow, this guy or gal, a lot of credits, it's fabulous. And then I'd read their article and go, this is crud. How the heck are they getting published? And if they can get published, well, I knew I could write better than them. So I just started submitting articles, and having gone to all these science fiction conventions, I had a lot of research. So I started getting articles published in various magazines talking about different TV shows and different toys you could collect. And always at the bottom of every one, I would say Jo Davidsmeyer, a brief biography, is working on a story about the making of the TV show Combat. I don't know if any of you remember that. Oh, yes.
Oh, a few out there, yes. This was 1962 through 1967. It was about World War II, an infantry unit in Europe. All of the producers of the show, almost all of the actors were World War II vets themselves, so it was very realistic. I loved the show as a kid. And I made it my passion to actually try to track down the actors. So I met a couple of them and got them some information. And again, I put that working on a book about combat. Well, yeah, every now and then I'd work on it. I got a phone call out of the blue from a publisher in Chicago who specializes in media publication books.
said, saw your article, saw you working on it. We have had a sudden hole in our publishing schedule. Could you have your book ready in 3 months? I said, of course I can. Hung up the phone and cried. 3 months. Oh boy. I got on my phone with my contacts. I suddenly said, you gotta help me out here. Who can you get me in contact with? God bless the actors. I had met several of them because I had arranged a reunion of the actors on a cruise ship. Combat reunion. And they liked me, which was even better. So they started giving me the phone numbers of the producers and the directors and the writers. So I really got to a lot of material, which I have to put together very quickly. And at the same time, because I had a professional publisher interested in my work, I called up an agent I had met at these various conventions and said, I have a contract, you want to be my agent? And of course, when you have a contract in hand, they go, of course I do. It's the only way to get an agent nowadays, unfortunately. So I got my first agent because of this. And I delivered the book. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. I was a published author with a professional publisher who went out of business 18 months later. Chapter 11, gone. Called bankruptcy court. I tried to buy the remaining stock for the books. No, could not buy it. Somebody pulped them. But the copyright reverted back to me. Well, I know how to cut and paste. I know how to set up the book. So I decided I'm going to do this from scratch. This is 1998. Fortunately, we'd gotten past cut and paste at that point. There was actually software available, and I knew how to run it. Yay! So I put together the book myself from scratch, made a huge improvement over what the other publisher did, and was very scared because back then, in order to get any decent pricing on a per book basis, I had to order 5,000 copies. That was scary. I took a HELOC on my house to do it. I'm now in my third printing of the book. Yay! I figured at some point everybody who's ever heard of the show has had a copy of it, but no, it keeps selling. I am very, very blessed to have had that happen. And that was all because I was suddenly realized by comparing myself to others, I was a better writer than other people. I think the times that you have self-doubt, you should just banish that away. I think anything you set your mind to do, you can do. I was a couch potato, and I managed to meet 24 producers of this show. Just by being a persistent pain in the butt. You can do anything you set your mind to do. I got an agent. I am a playwright. My agent was able to place 4 of my plays in theaters across the country. I was able to get, thanks to that agent, I was able to get one published in a book called Reader's Theater. I no longer have the agent, but he was good to me while it was there. The Strange New Worlds, back then there was a phrase among us magazine publishers that friends don't let friends publish magazines. It went under after about 3 years. It was the newsstand distribution that killed me, unfortunately. However, nowadays, there is self-publishing available on Amazon.com called KDP Publishing, where you can take a book, anything, and they will publish it for you, a print on demand, or electronic copies. So all of my back issues of Strange New Worlds are available electronically on Amazon for anyone to buy. I get a whopping like $10 a month from it, but it is something. I am currently working on getting my plays put up there, and I hope they'll do a little bit better. I do not have this electronically because I still have a few hundred copies of the books in my garage. I am trying to decide if I should go into a 4th printing at this point. I didn't think I would, but if any of you have the Heroes and Icon channel, they started showing combat about a year ago, and my book sales, which had dropped off for a while, now suddenly spiked. So there is life for those of you who like to write nonfiction and who are couch potatoes and want to turn couch potato experience into a money-making venture. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.
Thank you, Joe. Hello. I'm so glad I didn't put that teapot lamp back up
I'm
there.
so glad.
I did toy with it for a while, but you know, just leave it down and we'll get it later.
I brought the house down.
Veronica, did you want to say anything, or did you just want to be here? It's up to you.
I was going to say, how about letting me be last? Let everyone,
All right,
And
Nancy,
I'll
do you
just-
mind if we do that then?
no, I would like you to do that.
Okay, Nancy, is that okay with you? That's perfectly fine. Okay, then. Nancy is our next esteemed author.
Oh, yeah, I will.
And don't want to miss anything. Nancy was born in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. She lived in West Virginia, New Mexico, and the United Kingdom. We all know she's married to Ron, and they have 2 grown sons, Ron II and John. They have 4 grandchildren, Jennifer, Christopher, Patrick, Ron III, and 1 great-grandchild, Serena, age 14. Nancy has her Bachelor of Science in American and English Literature and Composition, with a minor in Business Administration from Eastern Michigan University, and a Master's in Reading and Literacy from Eastern Michigan University. Her major areas of teaching were literature, composition, creative writing, adult literacy, tutoring, and mentoring at-risk students, kindergarten through 3rd grade. She has written and published 2 adult books, Close Encounters of the European Kind, Close Encounters with My Lord, Conversations with God. Did I miss anything? Wait a minute. She also has written a children's book, Henry's Mysterious Voice. Ladies, warm welcome for Nancy.
I pardon that I am sitting, but it's better for me to sit than stand for a period of time. Yes, I've been an educator for 30 years, teaching everything from 1st grade. They keep passing me up through college. But my most favorite years were teaching high school juniors and seniors, who not only learned American literature, but creative writing through activities that I kept them thinking and doing and improvising on the spot. I could go into my class one day and say, okay, take out a piece of paper. And I could hear the groans. And I'd say, write on utopia. Huge spectrum. And it's interesting that what came back was, yes, it's wonderful, everything is perfect, but it's not real. So they got to know that life is reality. I also tested them with all kinds of activities within the American, and I also taught English literature. One of the things I had both my juniors and seniors do, they had to keep a journal with them at all times, because I could pull those journals in spot on. They never knew when I was going to pull them in. And if they were not there, they did not get a grade for that. And that was crucial because it took up 20% of their grade. I got to know my students, and they got to know me through the comments that I wrote when I read their journals. Sure, I read them. I tweaked, skipped. I never read them entirely. If I had a student I was concerned about, I definitely read that journal. I got to know one very troubled young lady through it and was able to help her get her feet on the ground because I knew who she was because of her journal. And that I do believe the Lord led me to her. In 1992, Ron and I moved to England, where he had taken assignment from Ford Motor Company to be the catalytic converter expert for the UK and Europe. And I got thinking, my family's back there, they have no idea what I'm doing or Ron and I are doing. So I started doing a travel log, kind of like Jackie does as well. And I thought, you know, this reminds me of my junior-senior class assignment. And I thought, you know, this would make a good book too. So it took me a good year to really get enough experiences to put in this book. I was very, very fortunate to have some wonderful experiences. One that I'll never forget, Ron and I met through a Brit, Lord and Lady Strathcarron. And we had lunch with them at Parliament in the Lord's lunchroom, which was unbelievable. And I can still remember, if you remember 1992, what the big news worldwide was Charles and Diana and their problems. And he was irate. All they could talk about, how dare she do this? And I kind of sat back and I thought, that's your bailiwick. So I did not open my mouth, Ron did not open his mouth. And I cannot remember, we went into the Lord's part of Parliament for the afternoon session. And I wish I could remember, but I can't. There was a discussion, debate on something the United States had done. And I thought, oh gee. But I didn't. We were not to open our mouths. Strathcarron said, you keep your mouth shut. Also in that book, I had two very scary situations without Ron on tours I took. Well, one was a tour, one was not. He was at a meeting and the gentleman who picked him up said, what are you gonna do? And I said, I'm gonna continue my knitting of this sweater for my daughter-in-law. Oh, go on into Kaiserslautern. I thought, yeah, you want me to go into Kaiserslautern, a city I don't know, a language I cannot speak or understand, and be okay. Oh, they'll be fine, you'll be fine. So there was another convention that came into this hotel and took up everything. And I got into this small little space. There was a lot of cigar smoking and I just said, this is it. So I went down into the garage and put my knitting and book that I was going to read into the boot of the car. And all of a sudden there's this cab that comes in, a woman jumps out and I jump in. Why I did it, I still don't know. But I went into Kaiserslautern and then I went around and went into stores and so forth, and they immediately recognized me as an American. So they always had an American-speaking person there. So about 2 o'clock, I knew Ron and his aide were coming back to the hotel about 3, so I knew I had to get back to the hotel. When I go out on the street, there's no cars, there's no taxis, there's no buses, nothing. And I'm thinking, one has no idea where I am. I have no idea where I am. How am I getting back to this hotel? And I prayed and I said, Lord, you've got to help me here. And he calmed me and he said, what would any sane woman do? And I said, well, I'd look for a main street. So that's what I did. So I must have walked 4 or 5 blocks. All of a sudden there was a car park with taxis in it. And I jumped in the first taxi. And the man looked at me like, who in the world do you think you are? And I gave him the name of the hotel. And he looked at me. I thought, oh gee. So I gave it to him again. And he still looked at me. 3rd time, he repronounced it his way. And off we went. So he got me back to the hotel. Not knowing there are 2 of them. You can't not know the Lord putting where I needed to be. So I went into the basement or the garage, got my knitting, went back upstairs. And about 15, 20 minutes later, Ron and Uwe come in, the guy that had picked him up, and Uwe says to me, what did you do today? And I said, I went into Kaiserslautern. He went white, literally went white. And Rod looked at me like, you did what? And all of a sudden, I realized that if something had happened to me because of what he said, he would be in trouble not only with Ron, but with his company. But the Lord worked it out. I had another experience, which is in Berlin, where I was on a tour, and I thought the bus was going to come back to the hotel. I had expressed that. They left me off at the office, and I had no idea how it was going to. There was a train station across, kind of metro, and there was an Italian girl who had attached herself to me. And so we went over and we got the idea of where we had to go, on what train and so forth. We both got where we needed to go. So the Lord is always with us. When I got back home, about 6 years later, I was trying to figure out how to publish this. Well, no traditional publishing company would touch me because who's Nancy Hurley? You haven't published anything. I don't know your name. And it was, I hate to say, at the funeral of a dear friend of ours, that another friend said, oh, I've got a person that you can go to who has a publishing company. So I went and I met with her and she said, oh yeah, I'll publish it for you. And I thought, yay. So she figured out the cover, took some of my pictures that I had taken in Europe and made the front cover, and off we were to publishing. And it was wonderful. I got it out, I felt terrific, and for about a year and a half or so, things went well. Then, all unbeknownst to me, she sold out to another publisher, who about 6 months later went bankrupt. So the books I had stored, because I didn't know about it, the store was closed, I could not get to them, and I thought, okay. So I thought, this is, okay, I'll just take it as it's what it is. It took me about two years or so later, and I get this, and it felt like the Lord was saying, you've had so many experiences with me and with others, you need to write a book about your life and your experiences with me. And that's how Close Encounters with My Lord, Conversations with God, came about. I started when I was born, my family, and my childhood and teenage years, courtship, our sons and so forth. And through all that, it includes my joys of being alive in the Lord, being alive in the world with my family, both my original family and my created family, and just knowing Him. But there were times when I would cry and just scream, especially when my sister died. How dare you take her after you took my brother? It took me years of writing and journaling to get through that. There's still times when it hits me wrong. But I found solace in this book, and there was, of all places, in one of the women's magazines, this little ad from Tate Publishing, Christian publishing company. So I sent off a note to them, and they said, let us see what your manuscript is like. So I sent it with no idea that ever get anywhere past the mail-in line. And it came back the next day, yes, we want it. So I was ecstatic. I said, yes, I want you to do it. With self-publishing, it is exactly that. You pay for the publishing, the marketing, all the things that go with it. Now that can get extremely expensive, and sometimes it still doesn't work. So, Close Encounters went on the market. I went on book sales and at Barnes and Noble, and at that time I still think B. Dalton was still around and so forth. And it was wonderful. And then all of a sudden I hear Tate's gone under. So I thought, okay, 2 for 2. I'm stopping. And then about 4 years ago, I get this feeling, it's just a total sense of the Lord. And He said, I want you to write something that will enable children, teenagers, adults, and older adults. I won't say elderly, I'll say older adults, to learn about me and your walk with me. And I thought, okay, now how am I going to do that? So I thought about it, I prayed about it, and all of a sudden this little mouse came into my head. And he's this cute little brown mouse that, you know, he kind of, and I named him Henry. Why? I have no idea. But that book was such a wonderful experience for me because the Lord told me every word to write down. It was like John writing what the Lord wanted him to write in his epistles and works, gospel. I wasn't doing anything, I was just writing. And actually, again, I found Westbow Press through an article in Religions. I think it was Helen Collins gave me a magazine to read, and it was in there. So I, again, emailed, and they wanted it. But I needed to have pictures and illustrations and so forth. Now you talk about the Lord working. I thought, well, the gentleman the friend that did my previous book, Close Encounters with My Lord, now had dementia, so he couldn't do it. And so I was on my laptop, and all of a sudden this name came up, who was a artist. So I emailed her and asked her if she did children's illustrations, and she wrote back and said, yes, she did. So I said, I have a book I'd like you to illustrate if you would consider taking the time to look at it. We met the next day. We went over it, also a Christian woman, and she took the manuscript. She called me at 8 o'clock the next morning. She said, I want Henry. So we put it together, we sent it off to Westbow Press, and Henry became Henry. And again, a lot of money went into publishing, but I don't regret that, mainly because I feel it's a story that needs to be told, because it takes a little mouse who is afraid of the world to go out in the world. He wants to stay in the house he lives in, but nobody knows he's there, and have adventures, but he learns about God's love and protection. And it's a story that needs to be everywhere. Debbie Froth has even taken copies to Guyana. So it is getting around the world. But it's a good read for anyone from 5 to 95. Everybody will get something out of it, whether it's reader or listener. There are wonderful things about feeling good about writing, but there are also, as both of my predecessors have said, about advantages and disadvantages of self-publishing. Disadvantages, one, major, is the cost of publishing. It's all on you. You have to learn how to market your book, publish it, edit it. Although most of the 3 publishers did help me with editing. Advantages, you keep your rights to the book. They can't take it away. Nobody can take that away. With both, you get your royalties, but being self-published, you have the right to go other venues. And as of the last 4 to 6 weeks, I don't know what has cropped up, but I'm getting multiple all over the United States. I've had one from Europe asking to change Henry into a film or cartoon. Now, I'm very, very leery because I've been scammed twice. The first one by a man that I really thought was in it for me and Henry, and learned through that friendship. He was pocketing his own, in his own pocket, what I was sending in to have done. The other one, I broke that relationship off real quick. Tried to get money back, but the company just said, no, he's no longer with us. The second one was a man who was studying and almost ready to graduate into the ministry. And I thought, oh, I've got the right guy. Until I had run out of what I was going to put into his programs. And he said to me, if you don't follow what I say, things are gonna go badly for you. And I thought, you should not be in the ministry by any means. And I told him so. And I said, you are not a Christian, because this is not Christ. This is from elsewhere. So you have to be extremely cautious. You've got to go and be very diligent to find out who you're dealing with. Check them out thoroughly. And I'm going to say my joy is in writing, is to tell others, whatever age, about the Lord and His love of us, protection, and healing power. If you want to write. Sit down in a chair, have a paper, pencil, pen, and a mug of hot chocolate, coffee, whatever. Sit back, say a prayer, let the Lord come and touch you, let you feel His power and that He's with you. Take Him in. Then, write without thinking. It's a stream of consciousness. And just write. Let your thoughts flow freely, and your book will take shape and thrust. Just know He's with you in your venture and life of words. Thank you.
Next, we have Veronica. And we weren't sure Veronica was going to want to sit up here or present, but I did try to strongly to twist her arm gently and ask her to at least bring her book that she and Richard had written, because I wanted you all to know about it. I didn't find out about it until Richard was dying, and then she gave me a copy. And it's a, may I show it? It's a beautiful little book, written a love story. And she has others to talk to you about. So without any further ado.
So my younger daughter was the first one to publish a book. She gave up a career in Connecticut in corporate and went to Key West and ended up writing A Millionaire in Flip-Flops. And she self-published, so that set our second daughter off to write a book. She was a child psychologist for 30 years, so she wrote a book on cases she had dealt with. She's now teaching at 2 colleges in Connecticut. The special book here, my husband wanted to write a book for the family, giving them our family history. So I wrote the first chapter on my life until I met him, and some of the war years are there. And he wrote the second chapter until he met me. But we met very young, and we were holding hands at 13, and got married at 19 and 20. And we had a wonderful life, and this is what he wanted particularly to do about it. So the children, for our 60th wedding anniversary, gave us a number of these little books. And that is really, really very special. Now the other thing is, with the self-publishing, I was hoping to give you some leaflets today on how to go about it. My daughter sent me all the information, and the internet was down this morning. I couldn't believe it. I thought, gee, believe it. I can read you a little on my phone here. The way that they did it, and it was through Amazon. so I have to tell you, my daughter in Key West, that's the best selling book at the airport in Key West. I think the title does it, you know. So here's Sue, and my other daughter's Julie. So this is what Sue wrote. Sue and Julie both used a book publishing company called KDP, you mentioned, right? Which is owned by Amazon. The website for this tells me. KDP provides all the tools and resources you need to upload your writings into a book format, lets you pick the size of your book, and will give you a complete template to use. Prints the book and automatically makes it available to purchase on Amazon. I didn't know that our book here was on Amazon. By using this service, it is print on demand, meaning when someone orders the book, it is printed and shipped. You don't have to do anything when a book is purchased. Amazon will pay you once a month for books sold. Amazon pays you 60% of your book's retail price, minus the printing fee. For example, retail price on Amazon, say $15.95, you get 60%, which is $9.57, minus the printing cost of $3.68. You get $5.89 per book. You, as the author, can order author copies. That means you can order the book or as many as you like to be shipped to you at basic cost. Cost is determined primarily by how many pages your book is. For example, if you were to order the book The Millionaire in Flip-Flops on Amazon, it costs $15.95. If Sue orders an author copy, then it will be $3.68 per book. This way, Sue can give away copies or sell to local bookstores. If she sells to a local bookstore, she will sell it for half of the retail price, basically $8. She sells at the Key West Airport as well as other local bookstores and at her business in Key West. When you start the process of producing your book, you want to decide on what you would like your book to look and feel like. To do this, I like to go to a bookstore and look and feel at the different books, what you're looking for, what size, hardback, glossy, white paper, cream. There's another email here. This is the site that you will use for your book writings. Once you know the size of the book you want to write, you will download a template for that size from the website. Now you have the exact template of the book you want to write. Use this template to do your writing. All the tools and resources are available on this site, as well as helpful videos to take you through the entire process of publishing a book. The easiest part of writing a book is the actual writing and creative process. The hardest part of writing and publishing a book is editing. It can also be an expensive part and take up most of your time and your original writing is done. For editing, you can hire an editor, which can be expensive, give copies to your friends to read and edit. Do it yourself, free. You will need to read and reread after each edit, so you might be reading your book 20 times before it's ready to go live. The pro of self-publishing, you have final say in all you do. You don't have a publisher telling you to change things. You can make more money because you will get paid more per book. The cons of self-publishing, you have to promote the book yourself. Writing the book is the easy part. Selling the book is the hard part. one more little thing to read to you. My daughter wrote this in her Millionaire in Flip-Flops book. It's called The Fisherman. An American tourist was at the pier of a small coastal Mexican village when a small boat with just one fisherman aboard docked. Inside the small boat were several large yellowfin tuna. The tourist complimented the fisherman on the quality of the fish and asked how long it took to catch them. The fisherman replied, "Only a little while." The tourist then asked, "Why didn't you stay out longer and catch more fish?" The fisherman said, "With this, I have more than enough to support my family's needs." The tourist then asked, "But what do you do with the rest of your time?" The fisherman said, "I sleep late, fish a little, play, and with my children, take a siesta with my wife, Maria, stroll into the village each evening, or I sip wine and play guitar with my amigos. I have a full and busy life." The tourist scoffed, "I can help you. You can spend more time fishing and with the proceeds, buy a bigger boat. With the proceeds from the bigger boat, you could buy several boats. Eventually, you would have a fleet of fishing boats. Instead of selling your catch to a middleman, you would sell directly to the processor, eventually opening your own cannery. You would control the product processing and distribution. You could leave this small coastal village and move to Mexico City, then Los Angeles, and eventually New York, where you could run your ever-expanding enterprise." The fisherman asked, "But how long will this take?" The tourist replied, 15 to 20 years. "But what then?" asked the fisherman. The tourist laughed and said, "That's the best part. When the time is right, you would sell your company stock to the public and become very, very rich. You would make millions." The tourist said, "Then you would retire, move to a small fishing village where you would sleep late, fish a little, play with your kids, take siestas with your wife, and stroll through the village in the evening where you would sip wine and play your guitar with your amigos."
At this time, we've already said grace, so we're going to begin serving food. And if you're the first one at the table and you see something, there's little tent cards next to each of the chicken salads. You're having chicken salad, ladies. Comes from Chicken Salad Chicks. And there's a variety of flavors. And the little tent card next to the bowl tells you what it is and what's in it. So help yourself. There are two ladies I know who had allergies to things that we couldn't be sure of, so I gave them their separate lunches, but they can help themselves to whatever else they want. Can we start at this table? And you'll be table number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Head table, would you like me to serve you, or would you like to experience it yourself?
We will experience it
Yeah,
ourselves.
okay, then you go first before table 1. We'll save our questions for after we eat, so if you write down a question you might have for one of the authors, include them in
I'm always in the crack. Yeah, there was some.
There you go. That's when you took off. A friend of mine had a that bunny talked to me. I swore he was going to be wrong. Oh, they're so cute, you know. This one's pretty
It doesn't succeed. I always watch him go we just give him yell and I mean, and I was against him.
Yes.